Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Whoa, Govinda. Yeah. Krishna. Life is good. Life is good. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And if I think that I'm having a good time now, it doesn't compare. It can almost not even compare to where we are going, the devotees are going. We're going someplace really wonderful. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Well, we're here now, and it's pretty wonderful. Association of devotees, chanting. But where we're going is, how should we say, out of this world. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna is making the arrangements. He's making all the arrangements, bringing people together in different ways, and chanting is more access to chanting and hearing about Krishna, waking up, enlivening each other. It's really sweet. So yesterday, another chance to go on the Harinam. Last week when we went on Saturday, there was practically no one there. I don't mean public, I mean devotees. For some reason, somebody was sick, somebody had relatives in town, somebody, it was just like 3 or 4 of us that, and one of the devotees that actually knows how to sing very nicely had a sore throat, so she just sat there. And the rest, the other 2 or 3 of us that did show up, we kind of we chanted, but, it was a struggle because musically, I've been told I need to practice, and I believe it. But this Saturday, wow, we had 3, 4 devotees that could lead the kirtan with musical instruments. And we had mridangas, and it was so sweet. It was sitting down in the park, it wasn't the running through the streets one. It was sitting down in the park, in the boat. It's like I always think of it as like in the boat with Krishna, or like when the cowherd boys all sat down and took lunch. Krishna was in the middle, and he was handing out prasadam. It's kind of like that, either in the boat or having a picnic with Krishna kind of mood. And that was really sweet. I brought the Krishna book that I usually read from, like this. I brought this with me, and I didn't know, maybe there would be some opportunity in between kirtans. We would read a little something. But what happened was a man came along, and he sat there, and he was really, really attracted. He wasn't a kid. He was, a little bit older, mature man. And he sat down, and he was just really, really attracted to the kirtan, and he was listening. And one of the devotees went up to him and started talking with him. He was very friendly. And he had some questions. He was a nice person. So he got my Krishna book. I was feeling some separation because I wasn't sure I had another one at the house, but I do. This is the same Krishna book. So there he is with my Krishna book. And all right, so if he's just going to take it, he's not going to give anything, what's the harm? Let him have it. I can get another one. But I found out later that he gave the devotee $20 for the book, and they didn't even ask for any money. He just wanted to give something. It was beautiful. He was looking at the pictures. He was listening to the kids. Let me give you something. And he gave $20. So it all worked out, you know. It all works. I was seeing how everybody plays their part, you know. The kirtan's going on and everything's there. I brought a little sweet that I made, and finally the devotees liked what I made. They don't get all excited about when I make something sometimes. I'm not a real good cook. But this came out okay. And actually, you know, it wasn't that many of them, and the devotee that's really big on reaching out to people, he ate almost all of them. Which I was really happy about. I was happy to see him taking the sweet. It was really, really good. Yeah, it was really, really a lot of fun in the park. So we'll see what happens next week. We were rained out for 2 weeks in a row, and then last week only a couple people showed. Now this week it was lunch with Krishna in the park, or in the boat with Krishna, fanning Krishna. It's really, really good. And then this afternoon, devotee is having a little program at her house, which she does once a month. And we chant, take prasadam, read, and get some association. That also is sweet. That's also in the boat. That mood there is in the boat with Krishna, or the picnic lunch with Krishna. Is that mood really nice? So we're all preparing to go, to be with Krishna all the time, and we're practicing. We're getting ready how to associate with each other in Krishna consciousness. Yeah. And I don't have that much more time left, so, you know, in this body, so I need to take this. I need as much help as I can get before the buzzer goes off. Time up, time off. What is it? Time's up. So we're reading about Mucukunda and his prayers. Krishna, this is a summary study of the 10th canto about Krishna and his activities. Krishna is God, the supreme personality of Godhead, and he appeared 5,000 years ago as a human being. So, but not an ordinary human being. God can do anything. So sometimes he appears as a human being, and he has his relationships with his devotees, and he does extraordinary things. He has many forms. He can take any form for any purpose. So this is a summary study of the 10th canto, which describes Krishna's activities and his pastimes when he actually appeared. And it's by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Summary study of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, originally spoken by Srila Vyasadeva to the, he had a stenographer. He was dictating, he was speaking it. While he was speaking, Ganesh, one of the demigods, was recording. And they had an arrangement. Ganesh said, "All right, I will record as you speak, under one condition, that," what was the condition? It was a condition that you don't stop speaking or something like that, or you, what was it? There was a condition, darn it. I'll have to look that up. There's one condition. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Ganesh was taking dictation. One of the sons of Lord Shiva. These are all demigods, and they all know each other, and they all live on the higher planets. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And they're managerial entities. They manage what needs to be managed to keep a universe going. Like, in a company or a country, you have different managers to keep the whole thing going. So they're as you would say, like maybe the government of the universe. You got the utility department, and there's the utilities, the rain. Right. You get your electric, right? You get your water. Well, they manage that. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So he's offering prayers. Mucukunda was taking deep rest in a cave after having rendered a lot of service to the demigods in their battles against the demonic forces. And he was very tired, so he was given the benediction that he could rest completely, and that if he was disturbed untimely, the first person that he saw, he could burn to ashes just with his stare. So that's what happened. Krishna led Kaliyavana, a demoniac king who was attacking Mathura, into the cave. And Krishna accomplished two things at once. He had Kaliyavana taken care of. He didn't have to deal with Kaliyavana directly. And he's now standing there before Mucukunda because he wanted to give Mucukunda liberation. The demigods couldn't give Mucukunda liberation. They can't give anyone liberation. They can give you material facilities, but they can't give transcendence. Can't do that. Only Krishna, only Vishnu can give release from the material atmosphere. The demigods don't even have freedom from the material atmosphere, so how can they? You can't give what you don't have. They don't have it. They're also bound in their management of the material universe. And some of the demigods, they can actually help someone approach Vishnu. We're in the Brahma Sampradaya. Lord Brahma, the engineer of the universe, he heard directly from Krishna. He's a pure devotee, and our disciplic line comes from Lord Brahma to help us what? Go to Vishnu, go to Krishna. Lord Shiva also is a great Vaishnava. He can help someone who takes shelter of him to find Krishna. He can help them find Krishna, become Krishna conscious. There's a disciplic succession coming from Lord Shiva. There's this disciplic line coming from Lakshmi Devi. There's a disciplic line coming from the sons of Lord Brahma, the Kumaras, the sages. Ganesh also is known to, he can be approached, usually he's approached because people want money, they want opulence, they want material facilities, but he also, if he's approached for this, can help a person develop their devotional mood toward Krishna. So they can help if they're approached a certain way. But only Vishnu itself can actually deliver the goods, liberation. And certainly only Krishna himself can deliver it, can give himself in a relationship. So they're there, the demigods, and Mucukunda was fighting with them against demonic forces, and now he has killed Kaliyavana, and Lord Krishna is standing before him in his four-armed form. And Mucukunda is overwhelmed that because he knows that there's God. He knows that there's Vishnu. He knows all of that. But now here's Vishnu right there in his presence. So he's realizing what's happening is that he's having darshan with Vishnu. So he's offering prayers. My dear Lord, I am not exceptional to this universal law of material nature. I'm also one of those foolish persons who has wasted his time for nothing. And my position is especially difficult. On account of my being situated in the royal order, I was more puffed up than ordinary persons. An ordinary man thinks of becoming the proprietor of his body or of his family, but I began to think in that way on a larger scale. I wanted to be the master of the whole world. And as I became puffed up with ideas of sense gratification, my bodily concept of life became stronger and stronger. My attachment for home, wife, and children, for money, and for supremacy over the world became more and more acute. In fact, it was limitless. So, I remained always attached to thoughts of my material living conditions. Therefore, my dear Lord, I wasted so much of my valuable time without any benefit. My misconception of life having been intensified, I began to think of this material body, which is just a bag of flesh and bones, as the all in all. And in my vanity, I was like a dog who believes that he has become the king of human society. In this misconception of bodily life, I began to travel all over the world, accompanied by my military strength, soldiers, charioteers, elephants, and horses, assisted by many commanders, and puffed up by power I could not trace out your Lordship, who is always sitting within my heart as the most intimate friend. I did not care for you, and this was the fault of my so-called exalted material condition. I think that, like me, all living creatures are careless about spiritual realization and are always full of anxiety, thinking, what is to be done? What is next? But because we are strongly bound by material desires, we continue to remain in craziness. Hare Krishna. Yet, in spite of our being so absorbed in material thought, inevitable time, which is only a form of yourself, is always careful about its duty, and as soon as the allotted time is over, your Lordship immediately ends all the activities of our material dreams. As the time factor, you end all our activities. As the hungry black snake swiftly swallows up a small rat without any leniency due to the action of cruel time, the royal body, which was always decorated with gold ornaments during life, and which moved on a chariot drawn by beautiful horses, or on the back of an elephant nicely decorated with golden ornaments, and which was advertised as the king of human society. That same royal body decomposes under the influence of inevitable time and becomes fit for being eaten by worms and insects, or being turned into ashes or the stool of an animal. This beautiful body may be nice while in the living condition, but after death, even the body of a king is eaten by an animal and therefore turns into stool, or is cremated in a crematorium and turned into ashes, or is put into an earthly grave where different kinds of worms and insects are produced out of it. My dear Lord, not only do we come under the full control of this inevitable time after death, but also while living in different ways. For example, I may be a powerful king, and yet when I come home after conquering over the world, I become subjected to many material conditions. It may be that when I come back after being victorious, all subordinate kings come and offer their respects. But as soon as I enter into the inner section of my palace, I myself become an instrument in the hands of the queens. And for sense gratification, I have to fall down at the feet of women. The material way of life is so complicated that before taking the enjoyment of material life, one has to work so hard that there is scarcely an opportunity for enjoying. And then, to attain the youthful condition with all material facilities, one has to undergo severe austerities and penances and become elevated to the heavenly planets. If one gets the opportunity of taking birth in a very rich or royal family, even then, in that condition, he's always anxious to maintain the status quo and prepare for the next life by performing various kinds of sacrifices and by distributing charity. Even in the royal condition of life, one is not only full of anxieties because of political administration, but he is also in anxiety over being elevated to the heavenly planets. It is therefore very difficult to get out of the material entanglement. But somehow or other, if one is favored by you, by your mercy only, he is given the opportunity to associate with a pure devotee. That is the beginning point of liberation from the entanglement of material conditional life. How significant is the pure devotee? Well, there you go. My dear Lord, only by the association of pure devotees is one entrapped by your Lordship, who is the controller of both the material and spiritual existences. My dear Lord, only by the association of pure devotees is one entrapped by your Lordship, who is the controller of both the material and spiritual existence. You are the supreme goal of all pure devotees, and by association with pure devotees, one can develop his dormant love for you. Therefore, development of Krishna consciousness in the association of pure devotees is the cause of liberation from this material entanglement. My dear Lord, you are so merciful that, in spite of my being reluctant to associate with your great devotees, you have shown your extreme mercy upon me as a result of my slight contact with a pure devotee like Garga Muni. Now, I think there's an interruption coming.
Pendant number
Krishna.
is not in communication.
Krishna.
Pendant number 1 is not in communication.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Pendant number 1 is not in communication.
Hare Krishna. Boy, do I wish I could turn that off. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Pendant number
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Pendant
Hare
number
Krishna. It'll go
is
away
not in communication.
after it's tortured enough.
Pendant number
Hare
1
Krishna, Hare
is not
Krishna.
in communication. Pendant number
Krishna.
1 is not in communication.
Krishna, Krishna.
Pendant number
Hare
1
Hare, Hare
is
Rama,
not in
Hare Rama.
communication.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Pendant number
Hare
1
Krishna.
is not in communication.
It's Maya Devi saying, listen to me. Krishna. All right, let's go back and listen to Prabhupada and Krishna here. Okay, so Mucukunda is praying, my dear Lord, you are so merciful that in spite of my being reluctant to associate with your great devotees, you have shown your extreme mercy upon me as a result of my slight contact with a pure devotee like Garga Muni. Gargamuni had a lot to do with what was going on here. Gargamuni had a falling out with the Yadu dynasty, and using his Brahminical powers, he was the priest of the Yadu dynasty. He arranged for the appearance of Kalyavana, who, under the encouragement of Narada Muni, who wanted to escalate things, had him pointed him toward Mathura to attack Krishna. So Gargamuni more or less brought Kalyavana onto the planet. Kalyavana attacked Mathura, was attacking Mathura, and Krishna led Kalyavana to the cave where Mucukunda was taking rest. And Mucukunda destroyed Kalyavana. So Gargamuni has a lot to do with what's been going on with Mucukunda here. And now he says that it was by a slight contact with a pure devotee, like Gargamuni, that he's now getting the mercy of Krishna. So yeah, Krishna, yeah. By your causeless mercy only have I lost all my material opulences, my kingdom, my family. I do not think that I could have gotten rid of these entanglements without your causeless mercy. Kings and emperors accept the life of austerity to forget the royal condition of life, but by your special causeless mercy, I have already been bereft of the royal condition. Other kings exert themselves to get out of the attachment of kingdom and family by acceptance of hardships and renunciation, but by your mercy, I do not need to become a mendicant or to practice renunciation. So Mucukunda is a king, but every man he's the king of his home. Is it like his castle? So it's not just kings in the royal order. It's every man, his home is his castle, and he's the king there. So this pertains to everyone. My dear Lord, I therefore pray that I may be simply engaged in rendering transcendental lover service unto your lotus feet, which is the ambition of the pure devotees who are freed from all kinds of material contamination. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you can offer me anything I want, including liberation. But who is such a foolish person that after pleasing you, he would ask you for something which might be the cause of entanglement in this material world? I do not think any sane man would ask such a benediction from you. That's what happened to Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva became frustrated. He was born in a royal family. He became frustrated that one of his father's wives insulted him. And he became very angry. He was just a child, became very angry. And his mother told him, well, I can't help you. I'm not his favorite queen. Only Krishna can help you. Only God, Vishnu, can help you. And so he wanted to know, where can I find him? Where can I find this Krishna? Where can I find this Vishnu? Because he was so enraged, actually. And he said, well, the great sages, they go to the forest. So just a little child went to the forest. And he received some good instruction. I believe it was Narada, good old Narada, pops up in these places. And he performed austerities. And he was so focused and so intense to find this Vishnu, because he wanted to ask him for a kingdom more opulent than his father's, since he'd been so insulted. And by the strength of his austerities, he was actually disturbing the entire universe The demigods were complaining. He's performing these austerities, and he's really upsetting everything by all his austerities. So Lord Vishnu appeared before him. He said, what do you want? But when Dhruva Maharaj saw him, he had darshan with Vishnu, he didn't want anything. He immediately became purified, immediately became a pure devotee. He didn't want anything. He just wanted Vishnu. Never forget Vishnu, to be in the presence of the Lord always. And he offered beautiful prayers. He couldn't speak. He fell at the Lord's feet and he couldn't speak. And the Lord touched him on the head with the conch shell, with his conch shell. And then all these beautiful prayers came out. So here, Mucukunda is also having darshan with Vishnu, and he also doesn't want anything, even though the Lord says, Lord Vishnu actually, he told Dhruva he could have anything he wanted. Dhruva said, I don't want anything. I just want to be with you in devotion and be your servant and be in your presence. I don't want anything. But the Lord insisted. He gave him a planet, a whole planet, which is kind of like a gateway to the spiritual world. It's not actually a material planet, although it's in the material universe. It's the pole star. He gave him the pole star planet. So he got everything. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Which is really nothing for Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So here also, Mucukunda is having darshan with Lord Vishnu. And Vishnu is telling him, you can have whatever you want. Whatever you want, you can have. But Mucukunda is praying. He said, but who is such a foolish person that after pleasing you would ask from you something which might be the cause of entanglement in this material world? I do not think any sane man would ask such a benediction from you. I therefore surrender unto you, because you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the Supersoul living in everyone's heart, and you are the impersonal Brahman effulgence. Moreover, you are also this material world, because this material world is only a manifestation of your external energy. Therefore, from any angle of vision, you are the supreme shelter for everyone. Everyone, either in the material plane or in the spiritual plane, must take shelter under your lotus feet. I therefore submit unto you, my Lord. For many, many births, I have been suffering from the threefold miseries of this material existence. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Yeah, it's interesting. Time I am. Krishna is time. And so there's this little contraption here that's measuring time. 10 o'clock, cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. Time is eternal. But in the material world, measuring time. I therefore submit unto you, my Lord. For many, many births I have been suffering from the threefold miseries of material existence, and I am now tired of it. I have simply been impelled by my senses, and I was never satisfied. I therefore take shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of all peaceful conditions of life, which can eradicate all kinds of lamentation caused by material contamination. My dear Lord, you are the super soul of everyone, and you can understand everything. Now I am free from all contamination of material desire. I do not wish to enjoy this material world, nor do I wish to take advantage of merging into your spiritual effulgence, nor do I wish to meditate upon your localized aspect of Paramatma. For I know that simply by taking shelter of you, I shall become completely peaceful and undisturbed. Simply surrendering unto you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. On hearing this statement of King Mucukunda, Krishna replied, My dear king, I'm very much pleased with your statement. You have been the king of all the lands on this planet, but I am surprised to find that your mind is now freed from all material contamination. You are now fit to execute devotional service. So there it is in a nutshell. Practicing Krishna consciousness. Why? To become freed from all material contamination and become fit to execute devotional service. It's the whole thing right there. I am most pleased to see that although I offered you the opportunity of asking from me any kind of benediction, you did not take advantage of asking for material benefit. I can understand that your mind is now fixed on me, and it is not disturbed by any material fault. The material qualities are three, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. When one is placed in the mixed material qualities of passion and ignorance, there's these little anecdotes about in village life, a woman who is gathering firewood, and in the villages, like in India, they carry things on their head. It actually makes carrying heavy things easier, because if you carry it off to the side, it pulls your body out of line and all the muscles strain. But if you can get it up on your head, it's like, it almost becomes like weightless. Heavy things become very light because of the center of gravity. So she's carrying a big bundle of firewood on her head, and it slipped off. And she's walking, through the forest, jungle or wherever, and it slipped off. So to get it back up on her head is going to be like a major effort. And she's praying, oh God, please help me. What am I going to do? I can't get this. And actually, Krishna appeared before her. The Lord appeared before her. We don't know her history, why he did that, but he appeared before her. And she had called on him, and he appeared there. And he gave her that same opportunity of benediction. You can ask for me anything you like. So she asked him, please, can you help me get this thing back up on my head? Get this heavy bundle of firewood back up on my head. And Krishna, in other words, I want to continue on in my material life, and I've run into some obstacle. Can you help me with the obstacle? I want to continue on in my material life. I just need a little help. Like, I need some money, or I need some facilities, or whatever. So could you help me put this back on my head? So I was thinking, look at that a little bit. I was looking at it a little differently, because we don't know. It's just kind of like a little brief outline of that account, where it came from, or we don't know the whole story. It's probably somewhere in the Puranas or something. But another way to look at it would be, if she had darshan of Vishnu and she did surrender, then carrying that firewood would now have been turned into devotional service. It would be a whole different experience. So it may not be. It could have been either way. Either she didn't get it, which is hard to believe if you have darshan of Lord Vishnu. So taking a little story like that out of context without knowing where it was and who was speaking it and what, it's not clear. I favor the second understanding, is that she had darshan of Vishnu and she did get the bundle of firewood on her head, but now it was transformed into devotional service. Like Dhruva Maharaj, he didn't want anything when he had darshan of Vishnu, but Lord Vishnu gave him a planet anyway. So I'm tending to think. So let's see what he does with Mucukunda, because Mucukunda, he wants to give a benediction, but Mucukunda doesn't want to ask for anything that's going to entangle him in the material world. I am most pleased to see that although I offered you the opportunity of asking me any kind of benediction, you did not take advantage of asking for material benefit. I can understand your mind is now fixed in me, and it is not disturbed by any material fault. The material qualities are three, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. When one is placed in the mixed material qualities of passion and ignorance, he's impelled by various kinds of dirtiness and lusty desires to try to find comfort in the material world. When he is situated in the material quality of goodness, he tries to purify himself by performing various kinds of penances and austerities. When one reaches the platform of a real Brahmana, he aspires to merge into the existence of the Lord. But when one desires simply to render service unto the lotus feet of the Lord, that is transcendental to all three qualities. The pure Krishna-conscious person is, therefore, always free from all material qualities. My dear King, I offered to give you any kind of benediction just to test how much you have advanced in devotional service. Now I can see that you are on the platform of the pure devotees because your mind is not disturbed by any kind of greedy or lusty desires of the material world. The yogis who are trying to elevate themselves by controlling the senses and who meditate upon me by practicing the breathing exercise of pranayama are not so thoroughly freed from material desires. It has been seen in several cases that as soon as there is allurement, such yogis again come down to the material platform. Yeah, the yogi that was meditating underwater and saw the fish engaging in sex life. So his mind got disturbed and he had to immediately leave and try and find a partner. There are many cases like that. The vivid example, here it is. The vivid example vilifying this statement is Vishvamitra Muni. Vishvamitra Muni was a great yogi who practiced pranayama, a breathing exercise. But still, when he was visited by Menaka, a society woman of the heavenly planets, he lost all control and begot in her a daughter named Shakuntala. He was meditating and Menaka, society woman, it's prostitute, society woman, prostitute, nice way to say it, of the heavenly planets, passed by him. He heard her ankle bells. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. His meditation broke, became agitated, and engaged in sex activity with her. And he begot in her the daughter named Sakuntala. But the pure devotee, Haridas Thakur, was never disturbed, even when such allurements were offered by the prostitutes. So he was in meditation, Haridas, during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the government official didn't like that so many of the young men were going to hear from him. Didn't like it. So he sent a prostitute to go and disturb him. And after 3 days of hanging around him and doing everything she could to disturb his mind, and couldn't do it, and hearing him chant Hare Krishna all day, all night, she surrendered and became a disciple. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Jai gave up her profession and took to the chanting of Hare Krishna and worshipping Tulsi Devi. Krishna. Jai. But the pure devotee Haridas Thakur was never disturbed, even when all such allurements were offered by the prostitutes. My dear king, Lord Krishna continued, I therefore give you the special benediction that you will always think of me. Thus you will be able to traverse this material world freely, without being contaminated by the qualities. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Thus you will be able to traverse this material world freely, without being contaminated by the qualities. How is he able to do that? Because you will always think of me. And what is that? A special benediction. This statement of the Lord confirms that a person in true Krishna consciousness, engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord, under the direction of the spiritual master, is never subjected to the contamination of material qualities. My dear king, the Lord said, because you are a Kshatriya, you have committed the offense of slaughtering animals, both in hunting and political engagements. To become purified, just engage yourself in bhakti yoga practice and always keep your mind absorbed in me. Very soon you will be freed from all reactions to such sordid activities. So the Lord is directly the spiritual master of Mucukunda. In this statement, it appears that although the Kshatriyas are allowed to kill animals in the hunting process, they are not freed from the contamination of other sinful reactions. Therefore, it does not matter whether one is a Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Brahmana. Everyone is recommended to take sannyas at the end of life, to engage himself completely in the service of the Lord, and thus become freed from all sinful reactions of his past life. So it's not just the Kshatriyas because they're engaged, they've been killing, but the Vaishyas also, especially those engaged in business activities, sometimes there's some dishonesty there in order to make money, to make a profit. So everyone, not just the Kshatriyas, of the higher castes, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Brahmana, is recommended to take sannyas. Why? To engage himself completely in the service of the Lord, and become freed from all sinful reactions of his life, past life. The Lord then assured King Mucukunda, in your next life, you will take your birth as a first-class Vaishnava, the best of Brahmanas, and in that life, your only business will be to engage yourself in my transcendental service. In the present movement, this present Hare Krishna movement, we see the children that are taking birth to the Vaishnavas, the devotees, are not ordinary. They have a wonderful taste for chanting. They have very nice bodily features. They're intelligent. They're talented in different kinds of arts and sciences, really high quality personalities. So we can see what happens in previous lives with Mucukunda here. And this is also confirmed by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. To finish up, make progress in devotional service, and then to finish up, you can take birth in a Vaishnava family. It doesn't have to be. You can go home, Hare Krishna, but this is the kind of thing in the normal practice of when society is structured and running smoothly. You kind of take birth in Vaishnava family, which is higher than any of the castes actually. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I mean, we know from Chaitanya Lila, because of Lord Chaitanya, this is before the time of Lord Chaitanya, we know from Chaitanya, even the dog went home. There was a dog traveling along with the devotees who were coming from Bengal to visit Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. And a dog joined the party. They're giving him a little prasadam. He was happy. He was with devotees, a happy dog. And feeling part of things. And then he disappeared. They couldn't find him. They don't know what happened to him. When they got to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they saw the dog got there ahead of them. And Mahaprabhu was feeding him green coconut pulp right from his hand. Like, how many dogs do you know that relish green coconut pulp, right? Anyway, he's feeding him green coconut pulp. And the dog had surrendered. The dog went home before they did. So this is before the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It can help us to really appreciate even more the extraordinary mercy of this Sankirtan movement, because Mucukunda is like this great king, right? And we're more like the dog. So, but this is Mucukunda's story, and this is what happened. In your next life, you will take your birth in a first-class Vaishnav, as a first-class Vaishnav, the best of Brahmanas. And in that life, your only business will be to engage yourself in my transcendental service. Prabhupada says, the Vaishnav is the first-class Brahmin, because one who has not acquired the qualification of a bona fide Brahmana cannot come to the platform of a Vaishnav. When one comes to the platform of a Vaishnav, he is completely engaged in welfare activities for all living entities. The highest welfare activity for living entities is the preaching of Krishna consciousness. It is stated herein that those who are specifically favored by the Lord can become absolutely Krishna conscious and be engaged in the preaching work of the Vaishnava philosophy. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Wherever you go, wherever you meet, tell them about Krishna, Krishna's instructions. Hare Krishna, Hare Yari Deki Tahi Kaho Krishna Upadesh. Deliver everyone. Hare Krishna doesn't necessarily mean, sitting on a big seat and people washing your feet and stuff, There's that too, but it doesn't necessarily everyone. Yari Deki Tahi Kaho Krishna Upadesh. Wherever you go, wherever you meet, you yourself be in Krishna consciousness, and then Krishna makes the opportunities how to communicate nicely, nice experience for those around you to get some mercy from Krishna. Whether it's directly preaching the philosophy or giving a nice experience so they have a good taste that Krishna is a good thing because I had that interaction with this person and it was very pleasant, that this Krishna is a good thing. And then they're open up for more and more and more. This is different. We're all at different levels. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus ended Bhaktivedanta purport of the 50th chapter of Krishna, Deliverance of Mucukunda. And one of my favorite instructions from Prabhupada was, not like to me directly, but it's in a lecture or a room conversation or something, where a morning walk, where it might even be in the Bhagavatam. This is the way to preach to the intelligent class, the learned, knowledgeable class, is you fall at their feet and you tell them, "Oh, my dear sir, you're so intelligent, you're so smart, you know so much, you're very advanced, great sage." This is more like people who know scripture already. And then, very humbly, you ask them, "Now please, just forget it all. Surrender to Krishna. Take this holy name, Hare Krishna. Take the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just take that. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare."